Let me be perfectly clear about something. Working as a junior clerk for the Galactic High Council is about as exciting as watching zero-gravity paint dry. Most days I shuffle digital paperwork from one quantum server to another, file reports about reports, and occasionally get to stamp something classified just to feel important. But today was different. I really should have known something was up when Undersecretary Ren Starweaver burst into my cubicle, their 7 tentacles practically tied in knots. "Kex, by the sacred moons, where's my ceremonial robe? The one with the gold trimming that makes me look less blue." "Sir, you spilled Martian coffee on it last week." "It's still at the cleaners," I replied, trying not to laugh at their panic. "But your backup robe is in storage unit 394B. "This is not the time for backup robes, Kex. The humans are coming." Now, you have to understand something about the Council. We've processed exactly 2,749 species for membership consideration in the last millennium alone. Usually it's some hyper-evolved fungus or a collective consciousness of space-dwelling plankton. Business as usual. But humans? They were different. From my cubicle's viewport, I watched their ship dock at the Grand Spire of Unity. It wasn't the sleek, crystalline vessels we usually see. It looked more like someone had welded together spare parts from a dozen different ships, painted it electric blue, and somehow made it work. The name Diplomatic Disaster was emblazoned on its hull in what our translators said was something called Comic Sans. High Counselor Vax Luminar swept past my desk, their ceremonial robes billowing dramatically. "Bright Claw, take notes. I want every detail of this meeting recorded." "Yes, High Counselor," I said, grabbing my data pad. Though I should mention the probability matrices suggest. "Not now, Bright Claw. We have a reputation to maintain." Protocol Master Jix Thornhart joined us in the elevator to the Grand Chamber, obsessively straightening their medals. "Remember, everyone, we are the Galactic High Council. We've been governing space for 50,000 years. We do not get nervous about meeting primitive species who've barely figured out faster than light travel." The elevator doors opened to the Grand Chamber, and there she was, the human, standing in the center of the room like she owned it, wearing what our databases identified as a business suit and sneakers, red shoes that practically glowed against the formal black and white marble floor. "Hi there," she said, waving at us with what seemed like genuine enthusiasm. "I'm Ambassador Amanda Chen. Hope you don't mind, but I brought snacks. Anyone want something called a cheese puff? They're absolutely terrible for you, but they're amazing." I looked at my superior officers. Vax Luminar seemed to have swallowed their tongue. Ren Starweaver was trying to hide behind their backup robe, and Jix Thornhart? They were staring at the bag of orange snacks like it might explode. That's when I knew. This was going to be the most interesting day in Council history. High Counselor Vax Luminar cleared their throat, 4 pairs of eyes blinking in sequence. "Ambassador Chen, we welcome you to the Grand Chamber of the Galactic High Council, as per Section 47B of the Interstellar Integration Protocols." "Please call me Amanda," she interrupted, popping another cheese puff into her mouth. Several council members gasped at the breach of protocol. I tried to hide my smile behind my datapad. As I was saying, Vax continued, their voice taking on that pompous tone reserved for official ceremonies. "Every species seeking membership must complete the challenge of enlightened governance." Amanda brushed orange dust off her suit. "Sounds fun. What are we playing? Charades? 20 questions. Please tell me it's not Space Monopoly." Protocol Master Jix stepped forward, their ceremonial staff clicking against the floor. "This is no game, Ambassador. The challenge has stood undefeated for 40,000 years. It has humbled the greatest minds in the galaxy." The previous record holder, I added helpfully, was the collective consciousness of Proxima 9. They spent 3 centuries trying to solve it before giving up and evolving into pure energy out of frustration. Kex Ren Starweaver hissed, "You're not supposed to mention that part." Amanda's eyes lit up. 3 centuries? That's quite a commitment. Good thing I only packed a weekend bag. The Grand Chamber's lights dimmed. The holographic display activated, filling the room with swirling patterns of light. This was my favorite part, not that I'd ever admit it to my superiors. "The challenge consists of 3 trials," Vax announced. "First, you must solve the paradox of infinite governance. Then navigate the labyrinth of bureaucratic intent. Finally, you must complete the quantum logic problem of administrative destiny." I pulled up the statistical analysis on my pad. Current success rates are 0% across all known species, with a margin of error of 0%, plus or minus 0%. Not helping, Brightclaw Jix muttered. Amanda walked around the holographic display, studying it from different angles. And if I solve it? Humanity gains immediate membership in the Galactic High Council, with all associated privileges and responsibilities, Vax declared. And if I fail? Then humanity must wait 1,000 years before applying again, Ren added, practically glowing with smug satisfaction. One small question, Amanda raised her hand like a student in class. Where exactly is this written? The specific rules of the challenge, I mean. I flipped through my datapad. The Complete Compendium of Council Challenges, Volume 947, Section 12, Subsection Q, Paragraph. Perfect. Amanda clapped her hands together. I'd like to review all 47 million pages of relevant regulations before we begin, as is my right under the Freedom of Information Act, Galactic Code 55892, if I'm not mistaken. The room went silent. I quickly checked the reference. She was absolutely correct. That could take weeks, Ren sputtered. Months, actually, Amanda corrected cheerfully. Especially since I'll need certified translations of all precedent-setting cases, plus any relevant appendices. Oh, and I'll need access to the historical records of all previous attempts. For research purposes, of course. I watched my superiors exchange panicked looks. No species had ever asked to study the rules before. They usually just charged straight into the challenge, driven by pride or overconfidence. This is highly irregular, Vax protested. But completely legal, Amanda pointed out. Unless you're suggesting the Council would deny a potential member their legally protected rights. That would make for an interesting headline back home. More nervous glances were exchanged. I made a note to request overtime pay for what was clearly going to be a very long week. Very well, Vax conceded. Clerk Brightclaw will assist you in accessing the archives. Amanda turned to me with a grin that reminded me of my pet Xerax just before it knocked something expensive off a high shelf. Excellent. Kex, my friend, how do you feel about pizza? I had them install a pizza oven on the ship. We're going to be spending a lot of time together. I looked at my datapad, then at my increasingly uncomfortable superiors, then back at the human who'd just turned thousands of years of tradition into a research project. I have no idea what pizza is, I admitted, but I have a feeling I'm about to find out. The challenge had begun, just not in any way the Council had expected. 3 weeks into what the Council staff had started calling the Great Document Dive. I found Ambassador Chen Amanda hanging upside down in the ancient records chamber, her suit jacket discarded, reading a 1,000-year-old procurement form. Kex. Perfect timing, she called out. Did you know the Council once spent 6 million credits on emergency SOC procurement? That's classified information, I replied automatically. Not according to Amendment 558 of the Transparency and Governance Act, she sang back, doing a flip to land on her feet, which, by the way, was passed because someone accidentally classified all mentions of SOCs as state secrets. I couldn't help but smile. The past weeks had been different. Amanda had turned the normally silent archives into something she called a study party zone. She'd introduced the archive staff to Earth music. 80s power ballads are perfect for late-night research. Coffee, trust me, it's better than that Martian stuff, and the concept of Casual Friday. The Council is getting nervous, I informed her, watching as she pinned another document to what she called her conspiracy wall. They should be, she grinned. I found 17 contradictions, 43 loopholes, and one recipe for something called Aldebaran sugar cookies that someone misfiled as a peace treaty. High Counselor Vax chose that moment to sweep into the chamber, probably hoping to catch us slacking off. Instead, they found walls covered in cross-referenced documents, holographic displays showing complex legal frameworks, and Amanda adding to a diagram that looked like a cross between a flow chart and abstract art. Ambassador Chen Vax said stiffly, surely you've had enough time to prepare. Amanda looked up from a stack of papers labeled Funny Filing Mistakes Volume 12. Oh no, I'm just getting started. Did you know your filing system has a sense of humor? Look at this, someone categorized the entire Crab Nebula as seafood for tax purposes. Vax's eye stalks twitched in confusion. The challenge is meant to test wisdom and judgment, not whatever this is. Everything tests wisdom, if you're wise enough, Amanda replied, quoting what she claimed was an Earth saying, but I suspected she'd just made up. By the way, who's in charge of updating council software? Because your search algorithms are running on code older than my species' written history. I watched Vax try to process Amanda's particular brand of chaos. The thing about humans I'd learned was that they didn't just think outside the box, they questioned why the box existed, then turned it into a fort. The council has procedures, Vax began. Speaking of procedures, Amanda interrupted. I've scheduled a presentation for next week. Brought in a projector and everything. I'm calling it 40,000 Years of Paperwork, a comedy in 3 parts. As Vax fled the chamber, I turned to Amanda. You're enjoying this, aren't you? She winked, pulling another cheese puff from what seemed like an endless supply. Kex, my friend, you have no idea how much fun it is to beat bureaucracy at its own game. The time has come, Protocol Master Jix announced to the packed Grand Chamber. Ambassador Chen will now face the 3 trials of the challenge. I sat at my designated recording station, watching Amanda stroll to the center of the chamber. She'd traded her usual suit for what she called her lucky pantsuit, electric blue with golden stars. For dramatic effect, she'd told me with a wink. Trial 1, the paradox of infinite governance, Vax proclaimed. The chamber's holographic systems activated, creating a massive 3-dimensional display. You must optimize a planetary resource distribution system with infinite variables and competing interests, like solving world hunger, while keeping everyone's favorite restaurant in business, Amanda asked, examining the simulation. Precisely. A task that has driven supercomputers to malfunction and caused 3 different hive minds to have existential crises, Ren announced proudly. Amanda pulled out what she called a tablet primitive by council standards, but she insisted it had good vibes. Quick question, does the simulation account for quantum uncertainty in its base calculations? The council members exchanged confused looks. I checked my notes. In 40,000 years, no one had ever asked about the underlying code. The quantum matrices are standard council issue, Jix replied. Standard issue, from when Amanda pressed, tapping away at her tablet. Because according to subsection 779C of the Technical Specifications Manual, all simulations must be updated every century to account for quantum drift. Silence fell over the chamber. I quickly pulled up the manual. She was right. Again. The last update was, I checked the logs, 8 centuries ago. Which means, Amanda continued cheerfully, according to Council Law 44B, any results from outdated systems are automatically invalid. We'll need to postpone this trial until the simulation is properly updated. Should only take a few months. Before the council could protest, she moved on. Trial 2, the labyrinth of bureaucratic intent. That's the diplomacy test, right? Vax, still reeling from the first trial's derailment, nodded. You must negotiate peace between 2 species who have been at war for so long they forgot why they're fighting. The holographic display shifted, showing 2 alien races, the Karthak and the Veen. Interesting choice, Amanda mused. Especially since, according to the History of Interstellar Conflicts, Volume 23, their war was officially ended 6 weeks ago. What Jix nearly dropped their ceremonial staff. Amanda projected a document from her tablet. Small announcement in the Council Herald. Page 47, right between the classified ads and the weekly lunch menu. They signed a peace treaty over a shared love of space cricket. But the simulation, Ren stammered. Can't legally be used since it depicts a resolved conflict, Amanda finished. Council Code 8891. No historical simulations may misrepresent current galactic political situations. I struggled to hide my laughter as she continued. So that's 2 trials we'll need to reschedule. Shall we move on to trial 3? The quantum logic problem of administrative destiny appeared in the air, a swirling mass of probabilities and paradoxes. Now this, Amanda said, is interesting. The challenge is to solve an unsolvable problem, right? Correct, Vax confirmed, finally finding their voice. You must find the solution to a problem that, by definition, has no solution. Amanda's grin widened. But according to the original challenge documentation, which I found misfiled in the cafeteria suggestions box, the test isn't to solve the problem. She projected another document. The exact wording is candidates must address the quantum logic problem in a manner befitting a member of the Galactic High Council. And Jix prompted. Well, I checked 40,000 years of council records. Want to know how the council handles actually unsolvable problems? She pressed a button on her tablet. The chamber's screens filled with thousands of examples, council members facing impossible decisions and their solutions. Form a committee to study the issue. Table the discussion until next session. Create a task force to explore possible approaches. Defer to the subcommittee on impossible problems. The most council solution to an unsolvable problem, Amanda declared, is to not solve it at all. Instead, you create a framework for future discussion while maintaining the appearance of progress. The chamber erupted in chaos. Council members whispered frantically among themselves. I checked the regulations, everything she said was technically correct. Therefore, Amanda concluded, I move to establish the Special Committee on Quantum Logic Resolution, schedule monthly meetings for the next 5 years, and consider this trial successfully managed according to established council procedures. I watched my superiors' faces cycle through confusion, outrage, and finally, reluctant appreciation. She'd beaten them at their own game by playing exactly by their rules. This is unprecedented, Vax muttered. Actually, I chimed in, unable to help myself. There are 73 precedents. I helped Amanda find them in the archives last week. All perfectly documented, Amanda added. I took the liberty of preparing report binders. I even used the council's preferred font. She distributed tablets containing her full analysis, complete with color-coded tabs and executive summaries. The council members scrolled through them with a mix of horror and admiration. Now, Amanda said, pulling out her bag of cheese puffs, should we schedule the updated trials for next quarter? I brought enough snacks to last through winter. The council had never looked more terrified of orange-dusted corn snacks in its entire existence. Before we schedule those updated trials, Amanda announced, brushing cheese dust off her fingers, there's just one tiny detail we should discuss. She pulled out a document I recognized, the original council charter, written on what Earth historians would call really old paper. Ambassador Vax warned, the challenge must be completed. About that, Amanda interrupted. Kex, would you mind reading Article 7, Paragraph 3 of the original charter? The part that's slightly smudged by what appears to be ancient coffee stains. I projected the text for everyone to see. Any species demonstrating comprehensive understanding of council operations, procedures, and historical precedents shall be granted immediate consideration for membership, regardless of technological advancement or... I paused, double-checking the translation. ... tentacle count. The chamber erupted. Ren Starweaver's tentacles tied themselves into what humans would call a pretzel. Jix Thornhart's ceremonial staff clattered to the floor. That's impossible, Vax declared. We've used the 3 trials for 40,000 years. Actually, Amanda said, pulling up another document, the 3 trials were introduced during the Great Council Reform of year 7249, which, according to subsection 12C of the Temporal Governance Act, hadn't technically been ratified because the signing ceremony was interrupted by a solar flare. The backup signing was scheduled for the following week, but someone filed it under S for soon, and it got lost in the shuffle. I checked the records. She was right. The most important test in galactic history was technically less official than the Council's annual staff picnic guidelines. But that means Jix began. That means, Amanda continued, that for the past 40,000 years, you've been using an unofficial testing method while ignoring your own charter's original membership requirements. She paused for effect. Requirements which, by the way, I've spent the last 3 weeks fulfilling by studying every document in your archives. The council members looked like they'd collectively swallowed sour gravity pills. Furthermore, Amanda pulled out another tablet. By allowing me access to the archives, providing official documentation, and recording my comprehensive review of council procedures, you've already officially acknowledged my demonstration of understanding. It's all in the access logs. I quickly pulled up the logs. Thousands of entries, each one timestamped and authenticated, showing Amanda systematically working through 40,000 years of council history. In fact, she continued, her grin growing wider. According to Council Procedural Code 557B, my current presentation constitutes a formal hearing, and under Emergency Protocol 772, The presence of all ranking council members makes any decision made here immediately binding. Vax slumped in their chair. You planned this from the beginning. The cheese puffs were a nice touch, right? Amanda nodded. Nothing makes bureaucrats more uncomfortable than someone enjoying themselves while navigating red tape. Been keeping you all slightly off balance for weeks. But why? Ren demanded. Because Amanda explained humanity has learned that the best way to change a system isn't to break its rules, but to understand them better than the people who made them. Also, it was pretty fun watching everyone panic every time I found another loophole. I couldn't help myself. Like the time you proved the council's official language should technically be interpretive dance. That one's still my favorite. Amanda laughed. The look on everyone's faces when I brought in the dance instructor. Vax raised all four hands in surrender. Very well, Ambassador Chen. You have successfully demonstrated comprehensive understanding of council operations. Great. Amanda beamed. Then, according to Article 7, Paragraph 4, I now call for an immediate vote on human membership. All in favor? The council members looked at each other, then at their rule books, then back at Amanda. Slowly, hands, tentacles, and various appendages raised into the air. Motion carried, I announced, trying to keep my voice professional despite my grin. Humanity is officially granted membership in the Galactic High Council. Amanda pulled out a fresh bag of cheese puffs. Perfect. Now, about those 40,000 years of backdated parking tickets the council's been issuing in the Orion sector. The sound of multiple council members fainting was, I must admit, quite satisfying. Later that day, in what humans call a debrief, and what the council calls mandatory explanation of how we got outmaneuvered by a species that still thinks cat videos are peak entertainment, Amanda laid out her strategy. First, she explained, standing before the shell-shocked council, I noticed something interesting in your visitor logs. Every species that attempted the challenge arrived with their best scientists, philosophers, or warriors. None of them ever sent. She paused dramatically, a lawyer with a minor in library science. You're a legal expert, Ren asked weakly. Corporate lawyer, specialized in finding loopholes in impossible contracts. Amanda grinned. Earth's biggest companies hired me to tell them what they couldn't do, so naturally I got very good at finding ways they could. The library science degree just meant I really enjoy organizing information. She pulled up a holographic display showing a complex web of interconnected regulations, laws, and precedents. I recognized it as the conspiracy wall from the archives, now rendered in glorious 3D. See, every rule you made to stop people from breaking the rules actually created new rules that could be used to navigate around the original rules. It's like a giant game of regulatory Tetris. Tetris, Vax questioned. Earth game. Very addictive. Kind of like your filing system, Amanda continued. Take the challenge itself. You made it impossible to solve, but you also made 10 million rules about how it should be administered. The solution wasn't in the challenge, it was in the administration of it. She highlighted specific sections of the display. Council law requires all procedures to be up to date. Council history shows procedures weren't updated. Council regulations state outdated procedures can't be used. Therefore, the challenge couldn't legally be administered. But that's Jix began. Completely legitimate, according to your own rules, Amanda finished. Then there's the membership requirements. Original charter says understand the council. Later rules say complete the challenge. When two rules conflict, Council Procedure Manual Chapter 47 states the older rule takes precedence unless specifically overturned. I watched my superiors' faces as they followed her logic. It was like watching someone solve a puzzle by pointing out that the pieces were all different parts of other puzzles. The real genius bit, Amanda continued, pulling out yet another document. Every time someone failed the challenge, you wrote new rules to prevent whatever method they tried from working again. But you never wrote a rule preventing someone from using the rules themselves as a solution. She projected a final diagram. By studying your archives, I technically fulfilled the original membership requirements. By pointing out the challenge's legal flaws, I demonstrated understanding of council operations. By calling for an immediate vote, I used council emergency procedures. And by getting you all to attend this meeting, you turned it into an official session. I finished, making all decisions legally binding. Exactly, Amanda beamed. It's like that Earth saying when life gives you bureaucracy, make bureaucrats. That's not a real saying, I pointed out. It is now. I filed the paperwork this morning to have it added to the Council's official collection of diplomatic idioms. Vax raised their hands in surrender. Very well, Ambassador Chen. You have demonstrated a unique approach to Council membership. Oh, this was just phase 1, Amanda said cheerfully. Wait until you see my proposals for updating the filing system. Did you know your entire legal database is sorted by how pretty the documents look? The Council members exchanged terrified glances. Don't worry, Amanda assured them. I'll make it fun. Team building exercises, casual Fridays, maybe some trust falls. Trust falls, Ren asked nervously. Human bonding ritual. Totally harmless. Usually. Speaking of which, she pulled out her tablet again. According to Council Social Protocol 89C, all new members must host a welcome party. I'm thinking karaoke. I watched as the most powerful beings in the galaxy tried to process the concept of karaoke. Amanda caught my eye and winked. Keck, she whispered while the Council debated the legal definition of party. Want to help me introduce them to the concept of office pranks? I thought about 40,000 years of rigid protocols and stuffy ceremonies. Will there be cheese puffs? Always. The galaxy would never be the same. And honestly, that was probably a good thing. Entry log standard cycle 7249, subrotation Z. Recorded by Senior Administrative Clerk Kex, Bright Claw. Yes, I got promoted. Turns out documenting the greatest bureaucratic coup in galactic history looks good on your performance review. The weeks following what's now called the Chen Protocol have been, to use a human phrase, absolutely wild. The Council chambers, once a bastion of solemn procedure and mind-numbing routine, have transformed. Yesterday, I watched High Counselor Vax attend a meeting wearing what Amanda calls a Hawaiian shirt over their ceremonial robes. They claimed it was research into human cultural practices. The security footage of them practicing the hula in their office tells a different story. You have to understand. Ren explained during our now weekly coffee break, real Earth coffee, not that Martian synthetic stuff. We spent 40,000 years thinking we were the smartest beings in the galaxy. Then a human walks in with snacks and dismantles our entire system while making jokes. The really interesting part, they're not even mad about it anymore. It's rather brilliant, actually, Jix admitted during what Amanda introduced as casual coffee conspiracy corner, an informal gathering where Council members discuss pending legislation over beverages and something called donuts. We were so focused on making rules unbreakable that we never considered someone might use the rules themselves as a solution. The Council's legal department has been in a frenzy. They've discovered 17 more loopholes just by following Amanda's methodology. 3 of them technically mean we've been spelling Council wrong for 12,000 years. But the biggest change, the Council's actually becoming efficient. Amanda's reforms, which she swears aren't revenge for the parking tickets, have cut meeting times by 60%. Turns out, when you don't spend 3 hours debating the proper procedure for beginning a debate about procedures, you get more done. The trick she told me over pizza, now officially recognized as a diplomatic food under Council nutrition guidelines, wasn't beating the system. It was showing them the system could work better by being more flexible. Even the archives have changed. Amanda introduced something called searchable databases and digital indexing. The archivists nearly cried when they realized they wouldn't have to spend 6 months looking for documents that were misfiled under M for maybe important. The other species are adapting too. Last week, the collective consciousness of Proxima 9UN evolved from pure energy just to attend Amanda's bureaucracy bypass workshop. They said it was worth getting corporeal again just to learn how to file tax returns in under a century. The funny thing is, Amanda confided during our latest cheese puff sampling session, now an official diplomatic activity, humans have been dealing with bureaucracy since we invented writing. We just got really good at finding ways around it while technically following all the rules. The Council's starting to see the wisdom in that approach. They've even created a new position, Secretary of Creative Compliance. Amanda suggested the title. I suggested running away before they could nominate me. Too late. Turns out I'm now officially the Council's expert on thinking outside the box while remaining technically within the prescribed cubic parameters of regulatory frameworks. But the real proof of change? Last Council session, Vax actually laughed. Out loud. In chambers. At a joke about subcommittee naming conventions, the official record notes it as spontaneous respiratory activity related to human-style humor appreciation. Amanda framed that document. "See Kex," she said, hanging it in her new office, which she's decorated with something called lava lamps, claiming they're essential for diplomatic ambience. The galaxy wasn't ready for humanity because they thought we'd break all their rules. They never expected us to master the rules instead. Looking at the council now more efficient, more adaptable, and significantly more likely to approve motions based on whether they make actual sense rather than how many ancient protocols they reference, I can't help but think she's right. Though I do worry about next week's team building exercise. Amanda mentioned something about trust falls and three-legged races. I'm not sure the galaxy is ready for that level of human innovation. But at least there will be cheese puffs. End log. P.S. Note to self: file paperwork to officially classify cheese puffs as a Class 1 diplomatic resource. Amanda insists it's vital for interstellar relations.